We are live. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Reverend Sherri's Metaphysical Bible Hangout. I'm Reverend Sherri James, Senior Minister of Up Church. Up Church is a Bible-based New Thought church in the Los Angeles area, and we would love for you to join us. Our address is 600 West Queen Street in Inglewood, California. And our services are every Sunday at 1 p.m. And we are on the First Lutheran Church of Inglewood campus. So when you get there and you say, wait, where am I? We're in the First Lutheran building. We rent the space from them. But I'm really excited tonight because we're going to be talking about the law of obedience. And this spiritual law, this was a chapter that I had to work with because I don't know about you, but the concept of obedience is something that I have struggled with, avoided, tried to stay away from, didn't want to talk about, just figured, you know what, I'll I'll deal with that later. And Hollowell brings it front and center. So let me pull up my outline for tonight. Hold on. So this whole series, this is the last of 2 lessons. The series was an 11 series lesson. You can find all of it on my YouTube channel. This series is all about working the spiritual law for your business. And our intention is to really stand out from the competition, to eliminate the mental blocks that hold us back professionally, to attract and retain the right clients, and to turn that part-time business income into a full-time income. That is the work that we want to accomplish. And so we've been meeting together every Thursday for the last, let's see if this is a lesson 10, last 10 weeks, talking about spiritual law and how it applies to our business. And of course, anything that we talk about is applicable to any part of our lives, but we have been concentrating on our businesses. Tonight we talk about the law of obedience, and our outline is pretty simple. I've got a couple of announcements, opening prayer. We'll look at the law in action, and we'll look at some real-world examples of applying the law. We'll also talk about what is the law of obedience, what is the key to it, and then ask yourself the question, what law you're serving, and then how to work the law of obedience, and we'll talk about the most important question to ask when it comes to spiritual obedience, and then provided that I don't run over, we'll have Q&A at the close of the session. All right, wonderful. If you want to follow along on the blog, I always marry what we're talking about on Thursday nights with a companion piece, and so I write often about the things that come up for me as I'm studying this material, and today's blog post is no different. And so you can go right over to revsherri.com and read the blog post. And tonight's conversation is the same topic as the blog post, which is the unavoidable truth about spiritual obedience. My new teleseminar, so details are coming soon. It starts this month. I'm very excited. I'm moving forward. I've got some partners in this process, and so we're busy doing our work this week with getting ready to launch the course. So you'll just start hearing about it in the next couple of days, probably like early next week after Labor Day. I'm really, really excited. I've been teasing this all summer, and I'm so happy to finally be launching it and sharing it with the world, and I can't wait to share it with you, and I hope that you will decide to be a part of it. It is going to be my best course yet. I have literally just dropped in the kitchen sink. I've been studying prosperity for more than 20 years, New Thought for almost as long, and so this is really just a culmination of that 20-year work to look at what is it to be abundant, what is it to be prosperous, and how do we create that in our lives in a practical way. And so we're going to approach abundance in the form of money. We know that abundance is far more than money. In fact, if all you have is money, you're not abundant. So let's get that straight. Money itself is not abundance. Money is a symbol of abundance, but we're going to deal with money in this particular teleseminar, and so we'll spend 7 weeks together, and I've got tons of bonuses in there for you. So I just really am I'm excited to roll everything out and share it with you. We have a new platform called Webinar Jam that we've been using, and it's changed the way that I send out invitations for the Bible Hangout. So if you are new to Reverend Sherri's Metaphysical Bible Hangout and you want to know how to get in the loop, you want to join my newsletter at revsherri.com to stay in the loop and receive the link to join us each week for the live session. That's how you get involved. And so I send it out, and then when I send it out, I actually send it in a way where it is allows you to auto subscribe. So anytime I do public webinars that are free and open to the public, you'll actually get a notification before everybody else. The two scriptures for this series, it's an 11-part series, are Proverbs 23:7, as a man thinks in his heart, so is he, and Romans 13:10, love does no wrong to a neighbor, therefore love is the fulfilling of the law. And I explain this part every week because we have such interesting notions about what is love. And the thing is that love has action behind it. And when you say you love something, there's a way that you show up. And so love being the fulfillment of the law, love being the fulfillment of the law, we're talking about the ways that you show up. So when we talk about love, how do you show up for the law of obedience? We talk about love, how do you show up for the law of increase, or the law of thanksgiving, or the law of giving and receiving? How do you show up for that? So it's not just words that come out of your mouth. There's also a behavior, an attitude, a disposition in terms of how you do it. So we talk about love fulfilling the law. What we have been talking about for these last 10 weeks together is how does love fulfill the law? And we've been talking about ways that we show up in love. So I want to make sure that framework is very important. This series is really a series. It's about spiritual law, but this series is really a series about love. Okay, if you could just take a moment to relax and allow the power and the presence of God to wash over you. There is no spot where God is not. There is no more God where I am than there is God where you are. The infinite intelligence that indwells us all is everywhere evenly present. And it is even breathing itself as you right now. You are divine. You and the Father, I and the Father are one. We are one with this beautiful infinite intelligence that knows no end, knows no beginning. And we just give thanks and praise for all that God is and all that God has been and all that God ever will be in us. And we give thanks that we are opening up in fresh and new ways. We want our worship perfected. We want our praise perfected. Let the work that we do here tonight be that effort. I thank you, Spirit, for moving through us now to explain the law of obedience. Be the words that we need to hear so that we can walk away from this lesson more alive, alert, and in tune with you, more committed than ever to the power and presence of you in us. We love you so much. We thank you for this opportunity to express on this earth plane. And we ask that everything that we do be done for your glory. And I release this prayer in the name and through the power that is in the name of Christ Jesus. It is so, and so it is. Okay, here's my favorite slide, the law in action. God as law, God working in our lives is the law. And the law is a spiritual term that we use to express or to describe how we experience God in our everyday lives. And Hallowell writes something that I find powerful in this text, and I hope that I can find it. I may have to go to my notes because I pull out notes for this. And he talks about happiness. Yeah, I gotta find my notes, guys. Give me 1 second. He talks about happiness, but essentially what he is saying is that it is in discovering the law that you open or unlock the key to it. And he is speaking about, oh, I'm looking for it. It's going to be it'll be much easier to find in my notes because I pulled it out. Or maybe I did pull it out. Okay. On page 170, he writes, every student who obeys the law is a true servant of good. And we know the term good and God are synonymous. And in fact, sometimes it's easier to say good than it is God, because so many people have been beat up in the name of God that they've got a button on the name God. And so the moment you say the word God, they go running in the other direction. But every student who obeys the law and is a true servant of good will become a greater soul and will reap the power to control his every condition and enjoy blessings galore. This life is a controllable thing. It can feel like life is all over the place and random if you don't understand how it is that you are creating your experience. But once you grasp how the law works and you begin to cooperate with that law, then it unlocks the treasures of the universe. And the secrets of the universe are revealed to you. So the work is in retraining, reconditioning your mind in order to participate with the law, to cooperate with the law. Oh, I really thought this is it. Yeah, it's on page 176. Here it is. The God-governed man is never in doubt as to the results to be gained by following the principle. For principle is based on law and obedience. So this law can only have one result: happiness, peace, and prosperity. There is only one true result, which is happiness, peace, and prosperity. Any other result is a misuse of the law. So it's that black and white. The God-governed man. And so all that we have been doing in this series is trying to understand, okay, how do these laws, obedience, the law of increase, the law of sacrifice, it is just as sure as the law of aerodynamics. It is just as certain as the law of gravity. It is just as certain as the law of oxygen. I mean, that all of these laws are there's a certainty to them. They are intangible. You can't touch them with your hands, but you can participate in them and with them and cooperate with them through your thinking. And so the God-governed man, meaning the man or woman, humankind, that submits him or herself to the law and doubt. You know that, short of a malfunction, there's so much air travel that goes on, and they are never in doubt. And they have a checklist of things that they go through before the plane takes off, and they are never in doubt that this plane is going to get up off the ground and get to where the intended. And you can have the same certainty in your experience in your business. So the God-governed business is never in doubt as to the results to be gained by following the principle, for principle is based on law and obedience. And so this law can only have one result. And so if you're getting any other result, if you have a result that's not happiness, if you have a result that's not peace, if you have a result that's not prosperity, guess what? There's a misuse of the law. There's a lack of cooperation with the law. So this is wonder if I got a little bit of sound somewhere. There we go. I think I got everybody. Make sure you guys mute yourselves if you don't mind. June, I think that's you that needs to be muted. Yep. Okay, cool. So again, spiritual law, we're talking about unlocking the key to eternal happiness, unlocking the key to eternal peace, unlocking the key or unlocking the door to persistent prosperity, and really, really understanding and participating in it, contributing to it, being a part of it. So some real-world examples of applying the law. This is one that I love, and because it's a story that I know very well, and Chaz is someone who's very near and dear to me because Chaz actually paid for me to go to seminary. He was one of the benefactors of Up Church. And when Reverend Della said, I've got two young ladies that I'm looking at to carry on the legacy of Up Church, will you step in and basically pay for them to go to school? He said yes. And so the seminary degree that I have, I owe to Chaz Dean. Chaz Dean is stylist to the stars. He's the creator of Win Hair and Body Care. And he openly talks about how he relied on prayer and meditation to guide the relocation of his salon and the creation of his billion-dollar product line. And I just learned that. I mean, the story is just, he's remarkable. He's a remarkable person. But through prayer and meditation, he openly talks about this, so I'm not sharing anything with you that is like sort of, closed information, that he would rely on the presence and power of God, and this was his term, he would ask for signs of spirituality to know that this was the direction to go in. And so and one of the things that he had that he was looking for as a salon owner was that, there's no 401k as a salon owner, there's no, pension as a salon owner. There's just whatever money you happen to save up for your own retirement. And so he was always looking around for an opportunity to create some kind of financial security for himself. And so he was saving money and attending Up Church, studying under Reverend Della, and it had saved up $17,000, which was all the money in the world to him. And I don't remember, and I cannot remember this, and Ray, you may remember the story a little bit better than I do, but he basically says that, Reverend Della says something one Sunday that basically is like, that if God is your partner, then you have to make your plans larger, basically to take this leap of faith. And so he decided to take the money that he had and to purchase a salon. And so he starts meditating about where the salon should be, and he wants like a fountain, and he wants like this beautiful property, and and so with the $17,000 that he has, and so he goes to a realtor and he begins looking. Now, prior to this, he had been in Bel Air and in Beverly Hills all this time, and he's stylist to the stars. So Alyssa Milano, Nicole Murphy, and names like that. Those were the kinds of women that would come into his salon for hair care. And he went looking for a place, and he gave his realtor the sort of criteria. And now this is before the revitalization. Those of you that don't live in Los Angeles, Hollywood, even though Hollywood is Hollywood was not the place to be. You don't want to be in Hollywood after dark because it's a kind of a seedy place. And probably about maybe 10 or 15 years ago, somebody decided, let's put some money in there. And so now if you go to Hollywood is gorgeous. They built out this Hollywood and Highland complex. They built out, it's not the Kodak Theater anymore, somebody else has the license for it, but where they host the Academy Awards at Hollywood and Highland, it is this incredible like edifice. They put in like high-end restaurants, so they've got this really fancy Katsuya. They can go Vine in Hollywood or Vine in Sunset, and I mean it is this massive revitalization. They got the W Hotel there now, and it's incredible. And Emerson College is building an arm on Sunset Boulevard. It's beautiful now. There's still a little bit of seedy element there, but in general they have flooded that area with money, and so it has really sort of just picked up the value of the area, and it's really more of a destination now. Well, when Chaz is looking for this property, this is pre-revitalization. And these plans have not been put into motion. And so he finds this property, and there's a homeless person that is basically sleeping on the property. And he's like, well, that can't be it. Let's keep going. Anyway, he tells a story. I actually put a link for it on my blog. But he tells a story of learning to listen to the voice of spirit within him and to trust that this was the right place that he was being led to. And because he was willing to be obedient, he bought at the right time, because that property has since gone through the move, not to mention all of the renovations and things that he has done. But being obedient to spirit, he followed through and purchased this property. And the homeless woman, her name was Spirit. And he said this, and it's a fascinating story. You should listen to it online. I put the link on my blog. And he says that this woman was on the property, and I guess the friend that was with him said, what's your name? And she said Spirit, and he was like, what? And the thing is that he had in his prayer time, he had been asking for signs of spirituality, but he didn't know what that would look like, right? He didn't, have an idea. And he was like, in all of my lifetime, I've never met anyone named Spirit. And she had these dark glasses that she would wear, and she wore them all the time. And he walked over to her, and he said, what did you say your name was? She said, Spirit. He said, what did you say? And she takes her glasses down, and he says, when he looks in her eyes, he just saw oceans of blue. And she said, Spirit. And I get chills even saying it. And they ended up buying the property. Now, the thing is that she has dark brown eyes. But that day, when he looked in her eyes, he saw these oceans of blue, and she said, Spirit. So it's learning to listen to the intuitive voice inside of you and to trust it, to do what it is asking you to do, to take the opportunity that is in front of you. And of course, now you go to the salon and it's incredible. And the thing is that he lost clients who were not going to travel from Beverly Hills to run down busted Hollywood to get their hair done, especially not with a homeless woman living on the property. And he had to make a choice, and ultimately did not ask her to leave or anything like that, and they took care of this woman, and helped her to the extent that she would allow them to help her, and she became really like a guardian angel for him. So remarkable story. I encourage you to go take a look at the link on my website. It's a YouTube video. You can take a look, but he openly talks about the use of prayer and meditation to guide the relocation of his salon and the creation of his $1 billion product line. He does $1 billion a year with the Win Hair and Body Care. This is from somebody who all the money in the world when he got started was the $17,000 he had saved at that point from a lifetime of basically doing hair. And of course, my teacher, the Reverend Dr. Della Rislett, legendary actress, singer, minister, founder of Up Church. She famously tells a story of her obedience to God when she asked for true love. She's been on a honeymoon for the last 30 years. Oh, actually, you know what? I should have put a picture of her in Franklin. That would have been a better picture. She tells a story, and it's a really remarkable story. She had gotten to the place in her life where she was just done with men. Like, if I never see or touch another man in my life, I'm good. And she said she woke up at one point in her life, and I guess she was 43 at that point, and what was supposed to be the prime of her life. And she said, everything in me wanted a man, but there were no prospects, and anybody that was a possible prospect was not somebody that I wanted. And so she began to pray and to prepare. And as part of her obedience and listening to Spirit, she started to get rid of everything that was related or connected to any other man. She got rid of all of her sheets. She changed out her bed. She had a bed, I guess it was called a Hollywood bed, like those round beds. And she ended up buying two beds, right? And so one bed was hers and one bed was his. And the thing is that, and she always tells the story and says it this way. She's like, I do a lot of entertaining in my room. It's not going to come out the right way, but I do a lot of entertaining in my room. And so when people come over, they would hang out in her bedroom. But they couldn't sit on his bed. And so people thought she was crazy, like, no, that's his. And it's like, there's no man here. Like, what are you talking about? And even her daughter, who she was raising at the time, was like, dude, no, that's my husband's bed. And she talks about other things that she did that she followed, but there was an obedience of listening to what the Spirit within her was telling her to do to prepare for what she was going to receive. And through a random twist, Ben Vereen ends up knowing Franklin Lett, who ends up becoming her husband, but at the time it's just a business relationship. And they're looking for a woman to advertise Borden's milk. And they want an African-American woman, or black woman at the time. They want a black woman, but who will appeal across different racial groups. And Ben Vereen said, well, what about my friend Dell? And so she goes in and she meets Franklin. There's no love connection or anything like that. They just meet, and it's a professional relationship. And she's, like the way that he did business. But a friendship grows. And, sometimes they would call and talk back and forth, but it was always about business. And then she said, and one night he called, and they talked, until, let's say, 1 a.m., 2 a.m., whatever. And he said that he didn't mention Borton's. He didn't mention any business, anything like that. And she's like, so I called him back. But she talks about this beautiful courtship. And I have witnessed them, and I came into their lives at a much later point. They were already married, but I've watched how she's nurtured her relationship, and I've watched how they have interacted, and there is this genuine friendship that they have, and I love the way that he is so that he caretakes for her and that he looks after her, and then also the way that she caretakes for him and looks after him, and there's just there's a beauty to their relationship. And as she describes it, I've been on a honeymoon for 30 some, and they'd be married like 35 years, something like that. But those are real world examples I can testify to, that I know about, of just spiritual obedience, of listening to the voice of spirit within. When you ask for something, you're being given instructions in the moment that you ask for it. And oftentimes what happens is that we ask for something and then we get busy going about trying to do it ourselves. But there is that everything that you want, there's a law within you that governs it. And so the process is learning to listen to the voice of spirit within you, to follow on how your good is meant to come about. And it won't take the path that somebody else's good took. There may be some common elements, but it is essentially the way that God is bringing to you what is yours. So, what is the law of obedience? Oh, I got a typo there. The key to the law of obedience, not the law of sacrifice, that's from last week, is Jeremiah 7:23. Obey my voice, and I will be your God, and you shall be my people. Obey my voice, and I will be your God, and you shall be my people. Everything has a governing principle, including you, that determines its success. What you are working to do is to learn to hear the voice of spirit within you. And you can ask for it to be made plain. What Chaz asked for is, give me signs of spirituality. He didn't know what that would look like. He just said, give me signs of spirituality. And it came in the form of this homeless woman named Spirit living on the property that was the property that he was to purchase for his salon. Whatever it is that you're asking for, that when you ask for it, you also ask for the clarity to hear the information clearly. What is it that you want what is it that you want? And please make it clear, Father, Spirit, Mother God, please make it clear so that I know that this is it, and so that I don't have any doubts about it. And Chaz is somebody where he doesn't want to have any doubts that this is the right direction that he is meant to move in, and you can ask for that same clarity. That the law is obey my voice. Now the thing is that you got to learn to get quiet enough to hear the voice. Playing outdoors. Growing up, we played outdoors a lot, and I lived in a time. I don't feel like I'm that old, but I lived in a time when I could, we leave the front door open all day, unlocked all day, and we would play outdoors. And the thing is that if my mom called me, even though I might be on the other end of the block, I could hear her voice above the din of noise of the children playing, of whatever other things were happening in the neighborhood at that moment. If there was somebody cutting grass, I could hear her voice above all of that. That's what you're working for with being able to hear the voice of God inside of you, where above all of the cacophony of sounds that the TV, the internet, the things that pull on you emotionally, all the things that you worry about, all the things that have your attention, that you hear the voice of Spirit above all of that. And the Spirit will speak to you in the way that you need to hear. One of the things that I have learned is that Spirit speaks to me through writing. And here's what that looks like. And I'm trying to remember the specific question that I was asking. I have been asking the question of, okay, I was recently moved into the senior minister position at Up Church since March this year, and I have been prayerful about, well, okay, what is the direction, God, that you're asking me to move Up Church in? And finally, I just wrote it down, and I just said, what's your vision for Up Church, God? And I was reading a book by Barbara Brown Taylor. Now, I've had this book on my shelf I bought it when I was in seminary, so I've had it on my shelf now for probably 3 or 4 years now. So it's been a minute that I've had this book on my shelf. And all of a sudden, I decide to read the book. And in the second chapter, she's writing about her call to ministry. And she says to God, and she struggled with it. What should she do? Should she go into ministry? Should she not? She struggled with the idea of ordination and whatever. And finally, in a midnight conversation with God, God, what do you want me to do? What should I do? And the what came into her head was anything that pleases you. And so she woke up and said, what? What kind of answer is that, God? Anything that pleases you, just make sure you belong to me. And in that moment, I had forgotten the question I'd asked in my journal. I journal my prayers. I'd forgotten that question. I was on to something else. I was busy reading this book, as just enriching myself as a pastor and doing my daily study. All of a sudden, that question came back, and it was like, anything that pleases you. And I said, well, wait a minute. Well, what would please me? What would I be proud of to be the leader of as far as Up Church is concerned? So you have to find the way that Spirit speaks to you, and you've got to practice listening. And I've learned over time, that's not the first time that I have used my prayer journal to find an answer. But the point is that I know that that's a way that Spirit speaks to me. That may not be the case for you, but there is a language that Spirit will have for you. And when it comes, you will know. There will be a certainty in your spirit. And I had no idea that a book that had been on my shelf that I bought because it was for Reverend Mary's class would contain the answer to a question that I've been struggling with way before March. From the point that I knew that Reverend Della was actively retiring. It was a question that I struggled with, and I guess I hadn't fully asked the question. And when I finally asked, I wrote that question down on Tuesday, answer on Wednesday. So it's learning to trust that voice within and learning to hear how that voice within comes to you. Fear. So one of the keys to the law of obedience is stepping over your fear. Instead of recognizing God as law operating to and as surely as the law of nature, people have created in their ideas a God who is partial. I want to read the full quote from that, because we have created a God in our minds that we are absolutely terrified of. And this is what he writes. This is on page 167, 168. Perhaps in no way has religion gone so far astray as in its conception or understanding of God, whether it be the God of the Christians or of the heathen. Instead of recognizing that the supreme intelligence is law, operating according to and as surely as the laws of nature, men have created in their ideas a God who is partial, subject to appeal from saint and sinner alike, a God who can be persuaded and bargained with, a God who gives life and takes it away, a God who heals sickness and causes it, a God who impoverishes and enriches, a God who rewards and punishes. And having accepted this wrong idea, it has made prayer largely a matter of doubt, lacking in that strong assurance that a thing will be so because it is according to divine law. Once the law is understood, this is the part once the law is understood, once you realize that these laws are as sure as the law of gravity, as the law of aerodynamics, you can trust them. We hold the secret of eternal happiness peace, and dominion or mastery over all the forces around us. This idea that life is this random thing that you are not in control of, or that has mastery over you, is not true. And I think that that's why he uses the poem from William Henley, where he says that I am the master of my fate. Is that the one? Yes, it's Invictus. William Henley. This is a beautiful poem. Out of the night that covers me, black as the pit from pole to pole, I thank whatever gods may be for my unconquerable soul. In the fell clutch of circumstance, I have not winced nor cried aloud. Under the bludgeonings of chance, my head is bloody but unbowed. Beyond this place of wrath and tears looms but the horror of the shade, and yet this menace of the years finds and shall find me unafraid. It matters not how straight the gate, how charged with punishment the scroll. I am the master of my fate. I am the captain of my soul. Now, that doesn't mean you don't have to be obedient. Your success is tied to your willingness to cooperate with the law. If the law of gravity says don't walk off the building or else you will splat on the ground, and you walk off the building, is the law wrong? No. If the law of increase is that you praise or give your attention to, your concentrated, fervent attention to that which you want, and you give it to what you don't want, is the law wrong? No. The law is exact, and so your freedom has to be rethought. Your freedom is in cooperating. We make such a big deal of freedom in this country, in the U.S., and I know that there are people outside of the U.S. that are looking at this broadcast. I don't know what your countries are like, meaning read about things, but I'm not living in this country. We make such a big deal about freedom as if there should be nothing that's governing us, but everything has a governor. Everything. If this remote control has a governor, meaning there's an essential piece that if you remove it, whatever it is, that this thing cannot work. Everything has a governor. A car has a governor. Everything has a governor. What happens with human beings is that we try to make somebody our governor. So we want to make a person the ruler over us. But we all come under a spiritual law. And here's the thing, there's a law back of everything. There's a law of worry, just like there's a law of plenty. If you serve the law of worry will serve you. And you always know what you're serving. You always know what you're serving. I just read something that Marvin wrote. You always know what you're serving by the fruit that you're giving. Marvin says captains of ships have to obey maritime laws. Absolutely. Guess what? Get out on that water and don't participate with the water. Some things will happen and it won't be good for you. So everything has a governor. You have a governor, and that's the part. I think that we've got to let go of this fear that we have of obedience. And I think partly obedience has been subscribed to. That's maybe it. Obedience has been talked about in physical ways. So, and I can speak about it for women. I don't know there are probably some things for men too, but coming up as a woman in the church, women couldn't walk in the pulpit. Women couldn't sit on the front row. It's just crazy stuff. They have nothing to do with God. Everything to do with man and nothing to do with God. And what the spiritual law is about, the obedience is not an obedience to some outer thing. If you wear a dress above your knees or beneath your knees, guess what? If you don't think right, it's going to not really work out that well for you. Because my thinking makes it so. Not I wear a dress and it makes it so. Or not wearing makeup. I had an incident, not an incident, well, I won't call it an incident, but I had someone, I like to play spades, and we had a game day. And someone walked in and saw me playing spades with some of the members and kind of had a look like, Pastor, you're playing cards? Yeah, I am. I absolutely am. And I tried to win. I didn't, but I tried to win. So it's my thinking that makes it so. My thinking that makes it so. It is not the game. It's not sitting with a deck of cards in my hand, right? We got these faulty notions of what sin is, right? And hopefully we demystify that with one of the earlier sessions, that sin is wrong thought. If I carry the wrong thoughts, I can have a deck of cards in my, not have the cards addressed beneath my knees, no makeup on, and guess what? I'll still be living in error because my mistakes are not physical mistakes. You always created the behavior in the first place, and what created the behavior is the thinking. Get the thinking right, behavior falls in line. Thinking makes it so. I am creates the thing. So what law are you serving? The word obey means to submit to rule or comply with orders or instructions. Business is founded upon obedience, and as each member obeys the laws of commerce, he will succeed. Business is founded upon obedience, and as each member obeys the laws of commerce, he will succeed. If you open a business and nobody knows where you are, nobody can find you. You've got to participate with the laws of commerce. If you offer a product and nobody buys, and you don't do anything to change your product or to change your approach to selling your product, is the law wrong or is your approach wrong? Oftentimes we get locked into behavior and an attitude that keeps us stuck. We're not stuck, but we won't change anything about our behavior, and so we become stuck. There are laws of commerce that govern your business. People need to know who you are. It takes a certain amount of time for you to court your customer. There's in network marketing, most sales come after the fourth ask. But 90% of the people, and I may have that number a little bit off, but it's a pretty large number, 90% of the people quit after the first or second ask. But 60% of the sales come after the fourth ask. So most people never get there because they never get to the fourth ask. You have got to follow the laws of commerce. People buy from you when you make offers. If people are not buying from you, it's probably because you're not making offers. And it's not, there's no, you get up and have an at-bat. And so you've got to continue to work. Sometimes you work in a business where you've got to work to get some at-bats, to get an opportunity to make some offers. Why offers to two people? Guess what? 4 at least is the magic number. You got to go back at least 4 times. And so you want to learn from what didn't work the first time. Well, what are you saying no to? Are you saying no to me? Are you saying no to the proposal? Are you saying no to the time frame? Are you saying no to the price? Well, what is it exactly that you're saying no to? And then once they tell you what they're saying no to, then it's like, okay, now I can go do something about that. Well, would you be open to, if I could make that a better, whatever the thing is, if I could fix X, Y, and Z, would that make this product more attractive? And if the answer is no, okay, so it seems like that may be a problem, but what else is a problem? Because what you're trying to get to is yes. And I don't need you to say yes in this room. I just need you to help me make my product better. Business is founded on obedience. And it is obedience to the laws of commerce. Success. Don't obey the laws of commerce, don't expect success. So there's a cooperation that has to happen. Let me check to see if there are any comments in the chat room. Oh, Yvonne, I'm hoping you can hear me. She says, I'm not hearing anything. Has it started? And Constance says, come on, God. All right, let me know in the chat room if you guys are not hearing anything or if that has been cleared up. We started 4 minutes late. So we are dependent entirely on obedience for our success or failure in this life. Our mistakes are largely due to the fact that we have obeyed more readily the laws of earth than the laws of spirit. Our mistakes are largely due to the fact that we have obeyed more readily the laws of the earth than the laws of spirit. And what do we mean by the laws of the earth? Meaning, and earth metaphysically is your body, but not just this body, but your home, your car, your bank accounts, your family. It's that when we speak about earth metaphysically, we're talking about all of the manifestations that are tied to you physically, that are tied to your earthly existence. And we make decisions based on need as opposed to being based on principle. And so, and the problem with making a decision based on need is that the need always has to be in place. See if I can say that differently. When you make a decision based on need, then essentially what you're doing is that you are empowering the need. And then the need always has to be there because that's how you make your decisions. So the cleaning up process in terms of how you make your decisions is making your decisions based on the laws of God, based on the law of spirit. So here's what I mean. What I mean is that, okay, so the law of increase is that what you praise, you raise, right? Wherever you put your praise, taking the religious terms off of the religious connotation off of it, praise is fervent, focused attention, right? So you've got a need for some money. And so then you go to work trying to fulfill that need, as opposed to what you really want is abundance. And if you will give your attention to the abundance that is in your life, you will grow that abundance. And it will surpass and eclipse the need and essentially blot it out. But because we're focused on the need, we keep the need allowed. And the need becomes our continual experience. He says it this way, and I think it is brilliant, and I can't improve on it, so I'm going to just say it the way that he says it. He says, if we are to obey this, I'm on page 171, if we are to obey the spirit within us rather than the conditions about us, then the law requires us to first think things into existence from the within before we shall see them on the without. So before you can see it outside, you got to think about it and create it inside. If you plant a turnip seed, nature does not make a mistake and bring forth a giant oak tree. On the same thoughts of worry, the law you obey will give you something to worry about. It will produce more and more circumstances to increase your worries. If you think of disease and lack, you will receive exactly what you are expecting. Whatever law you obey will in turn serve you. So the most important thing then is to know what to obey. Marvin says, row, row, row your boat gently down the stream. Yes, detach. Your boat is your consciousness. Your boat is your mind, your thinking. And you go with the flow of what is happening in your universe. Thank you for that, Marvin. So what is the most important question to ask yourself? What law are you serving? Because whatever law you serve will in turn serve you. And how do you know what law you're serving? Well, what are you getting? Is your life full of worry? Is your life full of peace? Is your life full of anxiety? Is your life full of happiness? Because the law you serve serves up what comes with it. The law you serve serves you. You always know what you are serving by looking at what is it that you are getting. The purpose of your experience is like a feedback system to give you some feedback on what it is that you are serving. What are you serving? What has your attention? And you serve through your attention. Remember we said in some earlier sessions that your attention is like currency, right? And it's currency that you use and you go spending throughout the universe to get the things that you do. It's going to magnify that. And if you give it to the need, then you're serving the law of need. And if you give it to the plenty, then you're serving the law of plenty. But whatever you give it to, it's going to serve up more of that. And so you have, and you may be in a situation Reverend Sherri, the sister of Up Church, a few last month, and I was, frustrated with some things. I'm ready for this to, the thing is that I know what she said. She said, "What do you?" And I said, right now that I've been in this space that I don't even know if I can quite identify what it is that I want, because I've been in this space for so long that it's like I haven't even allowed on just getting. I don't know if you've ever experienced that, where you've been so down in the dumps that you have, like, just allowing yourself to dream feels wrong in some way. Allowing yourself to dream feels like, you know what, let me just get out of where I am. The thing is that you've got to begin to invest now. If you want to be a piano player, and you mean master the piano, you may not necessarily want to do great concerts, but you want to be proficient as a piano player. And if you're ever at a party and they need somebody to play the piano, you can get on the piano and, play competently. You got to start to invest that. There has to be a time investment in what it is that you want. You cannot allow yourself to be so consumed with what isn't going right that you do not begin to take a portion of your time, which is your attention, which is your currency, and begin to invest it in what you want. And even if it's just 5 minutes of going and looking online at some YouTube videos on how to play the piano, or signing up for a class at your local community college for how to play the piano, whatever it is, whatever you want to do, you've got to go and begin to invest some time, because right now, as long as you are focused on the need, and the need is so great, you are serving the law of the need. And it only can give you what serving it is meant to give you, which is more need. If you serve the law of need, it can only give you what it is meant to give you, which is more need. So what law are you serving? Another part of this is to rethink freedom. Freedom, it said this is a myth. Everyone is serving some law, consciously or unconsciously. And whatever you serve has a law behind it, and that is what you're truly serving. So, and I put this the symbol of the money bag, because maybe money is your challenge in your business. Serving the vision that God gave you for your business, and you're serving just to make sure that there's income coming in so that you don't have to close your doors. Guess what? You will constantly be in this space of need. It will recreate itself. And even if there's more money, you'll still be that person that's always stretching. Bob Proctor tells a story of the first year that he made $1 million. And he said I got to the end of the year and I didn't have any money left over. And there were things that I wanted that I couldn't afford. Meaning he could have paid for them, but the way that he handles money, he couldn't afford it. So you've got to be, what is it that you're serving? Are you serving the voice of God inside of you? Are you serving the intuitive voice that is guiding you and directing you and telling you how to run your business and leading you on a path towards your, because there's no final, there's no getting there, there's just continual growth. Are you serving fires in your experience right now? Well, this needs my attention. Let me go pay attention to this. And this needs my attention. You've got to carve out some time to give your attention to what you truly want. And if you will be disciplined with it, I mean, honor it. There's a book I'm reading right now called The Power of a Half Hour. And I love the concept because the idea is that what can a half hour do for you, and to basically schedule things that are important to you in chunks of a half hour. And so I've been doing that, where I want to make sure that I read every day because I'm filling my tank. I'm filling my tank, and so every day I have a list of things that I'm working on, and I pull aside that 30 minutes to read. And then I have another block where I write. Because guess what? I'm a best-selling author. So writers write. And then so I have my spiritual being. And so my spirituality is my most important value. And so it has to come first. And so that Bible study can't wait until Saturday night before church. It's got to be part of the daily activity. And it can't just be, for me, it can't just be just the prayer. The prayer is important. I think that's great. But I've got to study. I've got to continue to feed this vessel, to give it spiritual food. Because I'm going somewhere. I'm not just sitting still. I'm trying to reach inside of me and pull out all the magic that is within me. So then I've got to study to develop who that person is. So check that book out, The Power of a Half an Hour. It is it really, it's been a great help. Your obedience to spiritual law is the difference between success and failure. And so you want to choose wisely. You want to withdraw your obedience from things and give it to principle. And this is where I love that quote that he talks about with, nature never makes a mistake. Nature never makes a mistake. And he writes on page 170, when a man wishes to use nature in his work, such as farming or gardening, he must know how to comply with nature's law. In turn, as he obeys her laws, he derives the best results, and in the end, he will enjoy the greatest harvest. He who obeys the laws of nature and acts as her obedient servant later becomes the master and reaps a full harvest. Every student who obeys the law and is a true servant of good will become a greater soul and will reap the power to control his every condition and enjoy blessings galore. You've got to understand the laws that govern your gift mix, right? So the example that I use in the blog post today is that different plants have different laws that govern them. And don't give me the line about plants, because I'm not a horticulturalist, so I cannot tell you which plants need what. Right, I got one plant that I water, and it blesses me by growing, and I must be doing something right because it keeps growing. But there are some plants that need a humid environment, and there's some plants that need a dry environment, and then there are other plants that need sunlight, and there's some that would die if you put them in the sunlight, right? So you've got to understand the law that governs the plant that you are developing. The same is true of your gift mix. That there is a law that governs your gift mix. And so if you are, this is your work to figure out what that is, to spend time developing yourself, figuring out what it's going to take to nurture yourself, to nurture the greatness out of you. Having a talent just tells you where your work is to begin. So you may have a talent for singing, or you may have a talent for organizing people, or you may have a talent for teaching people how to get the most out of their organization, or you may have a talent for developing leaders, or whatever your talent is, whatever that is, there's a law that governs that. And as you cooperate with that law, that is how you become the master. And that is how you learn to control your world. But as long as you don't submit to learning how to become the master, and you continue to just do things willy-nilly at any time, no rhyme or reason to it, you keep yourself in a chaotic state. Life is a controllable thing, but it's controllable first by establishing the order. So go to bed at the same time and wake up at the same time, and give and feed yourself the proper foods, because you need this vessel. In Self magazine, this on the September cover is Kerry Washington, who's the lead actress for Scandal. And one of the things that she talks about is that she doesn't miss a workout. And she said, I work out because I want to live because of the way that I want to live. And she, as the lead actress of the show, one of the things that she learned, I think it may have been her husband. No, it wasn't her husband, but I think it was Ellen Pompeo, who was Grey's Anatomy. I don't watch Grey's Anatomy, but Grey's Anatomy, I think. And Ellen said to her that you've got to handle yourself like an elite athlete. That in terms of when athletes, especially during the season, there's a way that they eat, there's a way that they sleep, there's a way that they play, there's a way that they practice, and there's this order to how they do things. And so she was saying, fortunate for her, her husband is an NFL player, and so she, was able to incorporate some of that discipline that she sees him doing, during season, into her work in order to be the lead actress, to be able to command that position. Because you, being that lead actress, you're very much a leader of that community of people for the time that you are on that particular show. And so there's a way that you handle yourself like an elite athlete. And all of us are leaders somewhere in our lives. Whether we're a leader in our family, or we're a leader in a church, or we're a leader in our school, or we're a leader in our business, and you've got to handle yourself like an elite athlete. And there's a way that you eat. There's a way that you sleep. There's a way that you develop yourself, because it controls your performance. It controls what comes out of you. And so I just thought that was a really wonderful article. There is an article, it was in the Harvard Business Review years ago, called The Corporate Athlete. And if I find it, I'll put it up on my site. It's called The Corporate Athlete. I'll try to find it, in fact, because I think I have a copy of it, like in my archives or something. But it talks about, the article looked at athletes like Venus and Serena Williams and Tiger Woods and, Michael Jordan and Bill Bradley and whatever. And it looked at like how they manage themselves. And then they were working with, there's a Peak Performance Institute out of like Orlando, Florida, or Tampa, Florida, and the Peak Performance Institute. And what they were doing was looking at corporate athletes. They were looking at people who were at the top of their game in corporate America, head of banks, head of major corporations. And what they started to do was to take some of the practices of these elite athletes and begin to apply them to these heads of companies. And it changed the way that they began to show up for their day. So they were able to get a greater performance out of themselves. It's a wonderful article. It's called The Corporate Athlete. It's in like I used to subscribe to the Harvard Business Review like in the early 2000s, so it would have been, circa 2000, 2001, 1999, somewhere in there. But I'll try to find it and send it out to you guys. But the point is that there's a way that you train yourself, that you discipline yourself in order to bring out your best. Because you are a vessel of the living God, and there is greatness inside of you, but it can't come out if your life is chaotic. It is hit or miss. It's hit or miss. But it is in the cooperation, and another word for obedience is simply cooperation. It's in the cooperation with spiritual law that you begin to bring out of you all the beauty and wonder that is within you. We said this, whatever law you use, so examine your life and be clear on what law you are serving. And that takes some mind out of my results. Wait a minute, what was this day full of? Was this day full of worry? Was this day full of anxiety? Was this day full of physical pain? Because whatever it was full of is the law that I'm serving. And is this a typical day? Because I might have a day where I'm just worried, right? But is that every day? Or I might have a day where I'm frustrated, but is that every day? So it's get clear on what am I serving? What are the patterns that are showing up? And so you begin to examine your life, put yourself under the microscope, and then be honest about your results. This is not a beat me up kind of situation. It's a figure out what's going on so I can make some changes. And so in review, what law are you serving? And there are three parts to this. Is that one, to recognize that everything has a governing law, including you, and that law enables your success. Number two, obey spiritual law. It's the difference between success. And if you need a reminder, the ground and expect oranges, it just does not work like that. So if I'm failing at what I'm getting, meaning I'm not getting the result that I want, then I've got to go back and look at what I'm planting. And I've got to hold myself accountable for the seeds that I'm putting in the ground of my own mind. Know what you serve. Whatever you serve is serving you. And so this is also that honesty question. What's showing up in my experience? Is there a lot of worry showing up in my experience? Am I stressed all the time? Am I always stressed? Every time somebody wants to talk to me, I come home from work and I just want to pass out. I'm not telling you that you shouldn't be, pleasantly worn out from work, but I'm saying that where it's that kind of, you know what stress feels like. It ain't good. And it's a question. It's like, so I'm serving the law of stress. And the question is, how can I stop serving the law of stress? What can I do differently? Because this isn't working. So I need to do something different. I want a different result. Get the last slide here. So this is my call to action to you. This is a mindfulness week, and like I told you, I'm reading The Power of a Half Hour. So I'm recommending doing it this way, but you may do it whatever way you choose, as long as you do it. I recommend that you set a timer for 30 minutes and ask yourself, not as yourself. Sorry for the typo. Ask yourself, what law am I serving in my business? And then journal your answers and just spend 30 minutes doing that. What law am I serving in my business? And be honest with yourself. What are your days like when you work on your proposals, or you're working on something for a client, or it's like, what's the truth of what's happening in my day-to-day experience? What law am I serving in my business? And then just journal your answers. No judgment, just looking mindfully at your business. And then number 2, set the timer again for 30 minutes, and then ask yourself, how would I have to change to serve principle? And remember, principle is the voice of God inside of you. Jeremiah 7:33 says, obey my voice, and I will be your God, and you will be my people. How would I have to change to serve principle? And then just wait to see what comes up. Journal those answers. And then leave me a comment on this YouTube video with the results that you get, things that you can share. I know sometimes these things are personal, so they may not be things you want to share publicly, but the things that you can share, I'd love it if you would leave a comment on the YouTube video. All right, Q&A. We went over just a little bit, like 10 minutes over. Any questions on this? Anything that's not clear? Anything you want me to revisit? Hopefully this has demystified obedience. I think that what got me was that this idea that I'm obedient to something. And what he is advocating is be conscious of what you're obedient to, and then consciously choose what to be obedient to. So that, I think, was probably the thing that just kind of stayed with me. And it was that, whatever law I'm serving, that's what I'm getting. I can just look at the results, and that really, it got me like right here, like right right in the kisser. Marvin says, makes sense to me. Any questions? I'm gonna check the Q&A in the chat room. Wonderful. Well, thank you guys so much for tonight. Sorry about the late start there. Won't do that again. Where we are, we're on the last chapter next week, which is chapter 12. Yes, it is, chapter 12. Constance says, keeps me on my toes. The law of success. The law of success. Yes, this is it right here. And he opens up the chapter with, God intended every individual to succeed. It is God's purpose that man should be great. It is God's will that man should not only use but enjoy every good in the universe. The law of God denies man nothing. So the law of success. So the looking ahead though, this is a text. It's called Being a Christ, Inner Sensitivity, Intuitional Training Course. So this is a possibility. Now, mind you, I've got to get permission to use this because this book belongs to another church. But Ann Meyer was an incredible teacher. I don't think she's with us anymore. I think she's made her transition. And she covers some really, really wonderful stuff, deep meditation and techniques of meditation. So this is a possibility. Marvin mentioned the 12 powers of man. We could definitely do that. Um, there's also, and I think Marvin, you said the manifestation process too. I think was the one you said, and then Andrea mentioned, oh, just wanting to talk about divinity of humankind, and it put me in the mindset of, well, two things: discover the power within you, Eric Butterworth, which is an awesome book. Oh, that might be the book. Okay, well, we'll see. Discover the power within you, and then the other one is, Who Are You, Imelda Shanklin. Both of those are incredible texts. Whichever one I don't do, I'll put on the 2016 calendar. I'll because these are all great series. Constance says, thank you for showing up. Great class. The book, Your Life, Why It Is the Way It Is and What You Can Do About It. Oh, I don't know that one. Who's the author for that, Constance? Your Life, Why It Is the Way It Is and What You Can Do About It. I also thought about the game of life and how to play it, which is Florence Scovel Shinn. If you guys haven't read Florence Scovel Shinn, that's a bad sister. She is just incredible. We certainly can pick something from Ernest Holmes or Mary Baker Eddy. So definitely please send your ideas in. Let me know what you guys are interested in. And then whatever we don't do in this next session, this next 12-week session, we'll push to 2016. But thank you so much for tonight. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I bless all of you. I release you lovingly in the hands of God, for only God has enough love to watch between us. And we know that that love is infinite, that there is no spot where God is not. And so I just send you forward knowing that you are meant for success and that it is all up to you because you can cooperate with spiritual law. And I love you and I thank you. Have a great night, and I'll see you guys next week. Take care.